All right, we've come full circle. Yeah, all right. Yes, the episode Full Circle introduces the companion of Adric, who is probably more significant in how he left the show. But he's the first of the new era that's coming, and this is really the beginning of the end for the Fourth Doctor's era here. So we get kind of like this is the beginning of the E-Space trilogy, followed by a trilogy for the Fourth Doctor's Way Out, which the third part concludes with the new Doctor. So anyway, that's neither here nor there anyway. But it's a pretty simple show of monsters in the actually I think the costumes for the Marshmen are really good. So it's I guess it could have been the creatures from the Black Lagoon and all that stuff. So it's all very fine, although I thought I understand the meaning of Full Circle, of course, for the big secret reveal, but Mistfall probably would have been the better title because there was something in the mist. But some of the more interesting scenes are brief and everything, but it's the interactions between the Doctor and Romana about her having to go back to Gallifrey, and she doesn't want to do it. She's come a long way, hasn't she? And she says, look, after all this, I don't want to go back there. It's a boring life of being on Gallifrey and sitting around in those stupid robes. We do know she gets there eventually and becomes lady president and all that sort of stuff, but she still wanted to have some fun, and but they're supposed to go back. But then, they pass through some portal they refer to as the CVE. That becomes significant later. They're tying in things when you get to Legopolis and all that. So technically, E-Space, which was the exospace, is another universe. So here we have one of the rare occasions where you visit an alternate universe, if you will. Although I think this was more seen as like a pocket universe, so I guess it's not as big as the proper universe. I don't know, but it's just one of those little interesting things where they don't just stick to space travel or time travel. It's you go into parallel worlds and stuff, but it is one of the rare occurrences in Doctor Who. So here they are, and it has this odd thing. They end up on the planet Alzarius, yet on the monitor it shows Gallifrey. So I had to think that they both occupy the same space, but they are in different dimensions. So, if they could just pop back, they would have been on Gallifrey. So, and I think, there's even a scene where the TARDIS gets moved and all this sort of stuff, and you look at the screen and it's still showing Gallifrey, but it's a different scene of the outside wastelands of Gallifrey. And so as you move around, the two planets are linked in that manner. But anyway, it's not really all that relevant to it. They quickly figure out what's happened, and look on the bright side, Romana. He gives you a pause before you have to go back home. But there is this, it's a brief interaction, and it's just one of those cool things where you're referring to the Doctor's story and whatnot, and she's saying she doesn't want to go back, and the Doctor says, well, you can't fight Time Lords. And she said, well, you did. And he said, yeah, and I lost. And of course, this is a reference all the way back to War Games, which is where, eventually he got captured. The Doctor on the run is only between Hartnell and Troughton's Doctors. After War Games, that's it. He's captured, he's put on trial, and he's punished and put in exile over a unit and all that stuff. So that's it's a nice little callback to the continuity and everything in that aspect, but it's also setting up for this other Time Lord in Romana, and that after she's had all these adventures, she's got a taste of the outside universe, and it's like, I don't want to go back to just sitting around. So we're getting the beginnings of what's going to become of Romana here. So we're introduced to Adric, and he's just a guy. Apparently he's really good in math, so he's a bit praised by the power structure they have there. They have the elites that are running the show, then they have his brother and some other kids that are rebellious, and they don't really believe what they're being told. And, well, of course, they were right. They're being lied to. Because every, I guess, 50 years, I think it was, the mist happens, and they have to go into this Starliner, which is this crashed ship that their ancestors crashed on the planet, supposedly. And they've been working on it ever since in the hopes that they could one day return to their home planet of Pterodon, which I imagine is like a parallel Earth or something. But anyway, and the idea that when it's mistfall, everybody's got to get back into the ship and hunker down until that passes, which happens when the Alzarius is furthest from its star, I think, or something like that. And but the thing is, when the mist is out, the Marshmen can come out of the water and they can breathe in the open air because of the mist. And they've always been told that the mist is toxic to them. But it turns out it's not. It just smells funny. And he said, oh, isn't that odd? And then the doctor walks around in this. So it was never toxic. It was just a trick to keep everybody scared and docile and obedient. Oh, come on. Leadership would never do something like that, would they? No. So anyway, that's pretty much the setting. You get some scenes of them hanging out at the marsh before the mist hits, and Adric, to impress his brother and his friends, tries to steal some watermelons. Those turn out to be eggs for these weird spiders, which turned out to be the ancestral creatures that evolve into the Marshmen, and then the Marshmen evolve into the Alzarians. Yes, the big secret is, I guess the Pterodons died out, or I don't know, and the Alzarians evolved into these human-looking people who thought that they were the descendants of the or the Pterodons got it on with the Marshmen. and there you go. That's the Alzarians. It turns out the ship isn't even damaged anymore. It's been repaired a long time ago, but they go through the motions. And this is almost like a call to Douglas Adams type thinking. And the doctor is like, you can take off anytime you want. And the guy says, yeah, we can, but we don't know how to fly it. Generations of these guys. And it turns out it's pretty easy that at the end the doctor says, hey, you push this, you push that, and then they hit the green button, you're good to go. Oh, well. Yeah. What are you going to do? So, but another possibility I thought was kind of suggested, but it's not the case, that there's this relationship between the spiders and the Marshmen. But at one point, one of the spiders bites Romana, and she starts having this psychic link with the Marshmen, and she starts helping them and all this stuff, and she hisses like a cat at people until the doctor comes up with an antidote and cures her of the affliction. But she develops these little tattoos on her face that look similar to the markings on the Marshmen. He said, oh, well, there's this relationship between them. But then I kind of thought, well, maybe the spider bites creates if the doctor had treated her, she would have turned into a marsh person, a marsh woman, but I guess not. And she would have been a were-marsh woman. And then, it's the spiders that made the Pterodons turn into marsh people. But no, that's not the point. They were derivative of each other. And it's other than the Pterodons getting it on with marsh people, I guess they just died out. I don't know. But anyway, so it's a bit shaky on that part. And how does it get there? It says, well, it was thousands of years and all that sort of stuff. In the end, they do fire up the Starliner and head back to Pterodon, but boy, what are they going to find there? They're not really from there. So was that the best thing to do? Well, they did it. Well, so, and I'd forgotten the show doesn't have, the Adric actually stows away on the TARDIS. So that'll be a little surprise for the next episode. Another thing is from the previous episode of Megalos, the poor human guy that was kidnapped to be a host for Megalos. they mentioned him saying, hey, now that we've dropped off our Earth friend, we can head back to Gallifrey. And so sort of kind of opens up the possibility for a Big Finish thing to saying that this guy kind of acted as a companion for a while, that they could have had a couple little adventures before they were finally able to get him back home. That sort of thing could have happened. But so anyway, there's a few hiccups here and there where the Marshmen pick up the TARDIS and move it, and then the Romana talks about its massive weight and stuff, and it's like, I don't know. The interior of the TARDIS, as far as the theory goes, exists in another dimension. So the public police call box is pretty much just that. So it would be the weight of that in and of itself, as technically speaking, the interior isn't really there. But I mean, obviously it's a creation of the TARDIS, because the TARDIS is normally supposed to be able to, with the chameleon circuit, change its appearance, which it did until it broke and got stuck as a police box, supposedly. But if you go by recent events, let's stop. And so it could take any shape of anything, and like the Master's TARDIS could change into a column or a tree or a grandfather clock, stuff like that. But ultimately, that would just be sort of the outer host of what the interior ginormous space station thing that's in there. But is it really? Oh, it gets confusing, yes, because we have such little minds. But anyway, so I would have thought that, a police box would be pretty heavy, but still not that heavy. So it's kind of a little misstep, I guess. But anyway, but still, as they move it around, they're falling down inside it and shaking about and stuff. I don't know. And there's also a scene where they very easily cause the TARDIS to dematerialize and travel to the Starliner. Okay. I don't know. But it all around, like I say, the Marshmen, I think, look pretty good. I mean, it's obvious suits, but for its time and whatnot, I thought they did a pretty good job. And it's a pretty creepy scene of them coming out of the marsh and all that, and makes for a very atmospheric, good, spooky look for Doctor Who. So there we are, the first step into E-space, and we've got a few more, and then we gotta, unfortunately, say goodbye to Tom Baker as the Doctor. Speaking of Baker, George Baker was in this show, and I kept thinking, why is he familiar to me? Oh, that's right. He was that nasty Tiberius in I, Claudius. He's a much nicer guy here. And as far as I know, no relation to Tom, but there you go. There you go. Thanks for watching and listening. Say, while you're still here, why not like and subscribe and share with your many friends? Yes. Also, check out my mini stores in the link description below. Yes, where you can get t-shirts, hats, mugs, all those goodies with my artwork on them. Oh, yeah. And head over to indieplanet.com and pick up a copy of my comic book, Night Night. Oh, yeah. You can also catch me at my podcast, Mr Nailsin Show, on RadioMisfits.com. And you can also watch my videos on BitChute.com and now on Rumble.com. Oh, my goodness, so many places to watch me and my stuff. Oh, yeah. And if that's not enough for you, well, you can follow me on many social media platforms and say hi to your old pal, Mr. Nailsin.